Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. How are you, Pat?
Good. It is Punch Up Standard Time. PST.
Oh, I like
Thank
it.
you, Runs. I just noticed that we were reading the chat right before
PST,
that.
yes. What, Pacific Standard Time?
Pat Standard Time. Easy way to remember.
Pat's Standard Time. I like it. You doing okay?
No, PST. Psst.
PST.
Sorry, I just can't let this go yet.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that's funny. The rules were that you weren't going to fact check. Somebody, I saw, what's her name? The blonde lady from Fox who left Fox after kind of outing
Michelle,
Bill O'Reilly, Megyn Kelly lost her mind about the fact checks. Like, she's like, F you, CBS, or whatever. We will get into it, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. But anyway, hello, welcome. Oh, okay, interesting. I like it. A Moscow mule to a dark and stormy.
Ooh.
All right. Tis the season. Tis the season here in Los Angeles. We have had almost, I think, 42 or 47 earthquakes in the past month, and it's 100 degrees now. So
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like 100 here today too, out of nowhere. But I'm with you, Adria. I love transitioning from my IPAs to a nice stout. So
okay,
as soon as the weather changes, I might mix it up a little bit.
I like it. Yeah, Halloween is a big celebration here at our house, obviously, with my husband especially loving everything horror and gruesome and gross. But now with our kids gone, I don't know.
You just lobbed that up there. Everything, he likes everything horror. Lila, is that why he married you, Lila? Never mind, I gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta go. The hook's gonna take you off. Yeah, I told you that when we first were dating, people used to call us Sid and Nancy because we fought so much, just like obviously not physically, but we were always fighting. And we went as Sid and Nancy for one Halloween, nice. Which I think is not politically correct anymore. It was 93 or something, which it probably wasn't politically correct even then, but
better than blackface. No, good job.
Yes, that's right. I mean, yes. Yeah. I won't even get myself canceled today. There's too many other things that are depressing. Yeah. So earthquakes and three-digit temperatures. You guys, you don't get really earthquakes up there, do you?
We do, but they're usually like a couple hours south of us, like Santa Cruz or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. When they say 47 earthquakes or 42, whatever, in the past month.
Are your blinds like swinging around and things like that? Like
sometimes I feel them and a lot of times I don't. If they happen when I'm sleeping or trying to go to sleep, I have the noise machines blasting so hard that my bed shakes a little bit because Josh snores. And so it keeps it from like, yeah. Although we've gotten a sleep divorce now with our kids not home, he can sleep in one of their rooms. So yeah, that's been kind of nice. I'm sleeping really well.
I just earthquake. It reminded me one time when I was living in Tahoe, I was watching the Sacramento news, and the newscasters experienced the earthquake on air. They're watching, they're like, "Oh, that was an earthquake."
Yeah.
And then there was like a couple second delay, and it hit me. So it was kind of a cool little moment. Like,
yeah,
okay, I get it. It must be near you and traveling my way.
It's such a strange feeling because at first you feel it. Well, often I don't feel it. Everyone else does, even if I'm awake and just like sitting. But when you feel it at first, it's like, okay, is this going to end? I mean, like in 93 or whenever the big one was here, I thought I was going to die. Like everything was crashing around us. You could hear babies screaming, dogs barking. It was like everything was still. Then you heard a lot of crashes and then screams. And it went on, it felt like forever. I think it was like 40 seconds or 60 seconds. Nothing's been that bad or that long since then for me where I am, but like, you don't know. So you don't know if it's just going to be like, oh, that's kind of fun. Like everything shook, or it's like, say your goodbyes, it's just very strange. But yeah.
Well, we'd hate to lose LA and all the beautiful people.
Yes, I know. Exactly. That's well, listen, at least we believe science. We have the climate administration,
Sorta.
and no ban on fracking. So
yeah, we know that much.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with thanking our wonderful pup heroes and sheroes, our members. You guys, amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you guys, and we really appreciate all you guys do. So thank you. It means a lot to us.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. I got my big old jug. I'll have my ties during the day. Pretty much wine is the thing.
Summer Mai Tais. It's still summer in LA. So let's see. Who are we cheersing to today anyway?
Okay, so we lost Chris Christopherson on Saturday. I think it was announced on Sunday right before our show. And he did a lot of really amazing, brave things. One of which was when you remember when Sinead O'Connor ripped up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live.
He got all the shit for that.
Yeah. All of his approving or moving people around who had raped little kids. And when a few months later, I think it was, there was a big Madison Square Garden tribute to Bob Dylan, and when she came out, the crowd started booing her. Bob Dylan fans started booing her. I mean, it just really is so interesting. There's that axiom or adage or whatever that, liberals love every social movement except the one that's currently happening, and they hate every war except the one that's currently happening. Now nobody would even blink an eye if somebody said about all the sexual assault and rape and everything.
Wild.
Anyway, he came out and he hugged her in front of everybody, which was really
amen. It's wild how fast people fall in line with the America First shit. What was that band that got a lot of shit for 9/11?
The Dixie Chicks.
The Dixie Chicks.
Now they're just so the Chicks. Yeah.
Hated for that.
Yeah.
And they were right about it all.
To Chapel Roan, right?
Yeah. They're doing it to her. Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. Right. Although this is guess who's number one on the Billboard Artist for the first time in her career? It pays to be on the right side of history.
Didn't really hurt her, did it? But they're calling out her mental health and just the most disgusting things on earth too. Yeah. And this is a person who agrees fundamentally on voting for Kamala.
She's like, I'm voting for your stupid candidate. I'm just not doing somersaults about it.
Assholes.
And also, an endorsement is very different from just checking a box, especially when you've got millions of fans. It means it has a different significance.
Who could learn from that? Bernie. The union leaders. You could say that, well, she's the best person for us, but I can't support endorsing her because she's not left enough for me. That's like one way to put it.
Yeah. 100%. Or I'm not going to endorse until she says we need an arms embargo right now. Unlike, and this will bring us back to our main cheers, Chris Christopherson, here he is giving Sinead O'Connor a hug coming out on stage to give her a hug, as liberals are, truly people who are at a Bob Dylan event are probably consider themselves to be on the left. And then the other thing was he found a considerable lack of work. I found a considerable lack of work after doing concerts for Palestinian children. If that's the way it has to be, that's the way it has to be. If you support human rights, you got to support them everywhere. Chris Christopherson. And he was on an interview show, and I don't know the name of the guy, but we don't even see it. But he was with Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. But this is a clip just of Chris Christopherson talking about the way we are in the U.S., and this was in 1992.
Well, other than the fact that it reminds me a lot of the flag waving and choreographed patriotism that we had back in Nazi Germany a half a century ago, the fact that we got a one-party system which is in control of all three branches of our government, lapdog media that's cranking out propaganda for the administration and make a Nazi blush. Other than that, we're doing pretty good.
Cheers to a real one. Seriously.
I was trying to figure out who the news guy was. Is that the guy that was a Fox News guy who just came back to MSNBC, the old guy, it looked like him.
Really?
I
Oh
can't
gosh,
think of his fucking name.
I don't know.
I blame COVID, but I don't think I've had COVID. But
if anybody knows in the chat, let us know.
Who's the guy who was he was a huge Fox News reporter?
Not Chris Wallace.
Chris Wallace.
No, that's not Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace is because that was 92, and that guy.
No, not Chris Wallace. Nope, Chris Wallace is who I was thinking of.
Mike Wallace's son.
Yeah,
because Mike Wallace was not. Mike Wallace was more like a liberal, and Chris Wallace, was like a full-on Fox guy.
Anyway, cheers to him.
Yeah, cheers to him. It's amazing to me that we have so few stars, and I know, like, who cares? But obviously, people sort of do, because it gives cover, or it lets people who are too cowardly to speak up for what's right. You know, it's the difference between, like, what we were talking about when all of these stars or singers or people came out for Bernie. It was a big deal because it showed people that you like. He's not so untouchable. He's not so out there. He's not so extreme and so radical the way the Hillary camp tried to make him. And so it was nice to see, you know, Ariana Grande and Lizzo and people who were sort of like, you know, huge stars coming out for him, right? And to see the silence, I mean, I think there's like Mark Ruffalo, sort of. There's Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz and Macklemore and Chappell Roan. Like, who else is talking about it? Like, it's crazy. I'm shocked. Angelina Jolie, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. We should make a list, but it's not enough.
It's certainly not enough.
And if you're one of the people out there supporting Palestine and still saying you got to vote for Kamala, that's not really helping Palestine.
It's not helping Palestine. And, you know, it's not helping Israel. Truthfully, this is the death of Israel. I mean, it really is. So, you know, it's like the thing of like Zionism is actually anti-Semitism. There's a reason people say that. They are ruining themselves. Thank you, International Party of Antarctica. Cheers to you. Thank you so much.
IPA. I noticed the IPA in the headline.
Look at that.
Good stuff. Cheers.
Cheers. And Adria, I love that movie. Lone Star was such a good movie. Great movie. And John Sayles is I think I've mentioned that I was on my very first movie set on John Sayles' movie the same summer that I was also on Jodie Foster's movie, Little Man Tate. City of Hope and Little Man Tate came to Cincinnati when I was there for the summer. And John Sayles he's a real one. He's a good guy. He's doing food banks in Vermont and stuff now. But you know who else was on there? Joe Morton was such a nice guy. And you really see the way people treat people who they don't have to be nice to when nobody else is even looking. And he was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, came up, shook my hand. I'll always remember that. I just thought that showed.
It does tell you a lot. Like, I've brought it up before, but I used to deal cards in the casinos and VIP stuff, and ended up dealing cards to a lot of celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 50-50. Nice people, shitty people. Yeah. I mean, but
I can remember what every celebrity tipped me when I was working at Cheesecake Factory for 7
I
years.
lean more to shitty people because they also, you know, it's not hard to be nice when you know you have an audience watching you.
Totally.
But if you're shitty, knowing that there's an audience watching you as a celebrity, and here you are being a shitty, you're really a shitty person.
You're just a bully asshole. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. All right. What do you think?
I think we hash it out. Let's get it.
Hash it out, baby.
I forced the wheel.
I like it. I was just going to say, we're supposed to do something fun before we get into this nice guy debate.
Absolutely.
Let's spin it. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Well, I hope everyone is already drinking. Let's not wait on that wheel just in case.
Okay, let's do a positive one. I'm too many cats, so I'm trying to get away from all cats here. This is wholesome.
The little bear is licking the little tiger's ear. It has always enjoyed playing with the little tiger, but the tiger is often impatient with it and frequently hits it. However, the bear never gives up, even when it is sometimes attacked by a group of little tigers. To get at the bear, the little tiger follows it wherever it goes. Because they often fight, the zookeepers worried about their safety and finally decided to separate them. The bear clung to the zookeeper's leg in desperation, but got no response. After that, the bear, angry, refused to eat and occasionally tried to climb out of its enclosure. After being separated from the bear, the little tiger became listless, also refusing to eat and howling to express its dissatisfaction to the zookeepers. It turned out that the little tiger had long considered the bear a good friend. The zookeepers had no choice but to let them live together again. After their reunion, their bond became even stronger, although they still fought every day. As they grew up, they became very close friends. They bathed together, and the bear even kept the habit of licking the tiger's ears from their younger days. This friendship is truly incredible.
I was so worried that was going to have a bad ending.
You know, if it had a bad ending, we'd show it too, probably.
It might still. I've heard. I mean, I love those. It always is so heartwarming, and just like, oh, interspecies and like all that stuff. But
then you find out they're beaten. They're in some Chinese zoo being treated poorly, or you know.
Yeah. But it is really cute when they're little, and don't ever let either one of them out of your sight for a second. All right. Oh my God. Diving in. Here we go. You watched it, right? You watched the whole
I watched the whole debate. I did.
Same.
Yes.
Same.
I put it on when I was still working and watching some of it though.
Okay. So before we like get into it, do you want to like just say our like overall feelings? What do we think?
Yeah. You first. No, I'll
I mean, I have a feeling we probably think the same. So maybe you'll phrase it more intelligently than I do.
Look, the goal is to win over independence. The goal is not to make. This is why the Democrats lost it. Let's put it that way. The Democrats lost the debate because they allowed Tim Walz to normalize the most radical, wild, weird, these catchphrases. JD Vance is more of a drag on Trump than Trump is because Trump's already factored into
not anymore.
He's already factored into people's calculus on voting. Right. But they were JD Vance came out and you're like, this guy's even wackier. So it was like, oh, he fucks couches. They put all this craziness on him, and he came out and had a very reasonable position, calm, not crazy debate. And Tim Walz just spent the whole thing softening his image, saying, I think you really do care about those issues. I think it really matters. I like that you're a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. And that was the opposite of what he needed to do. Yeah. I mean, it was nice to see a civil debate that was on issues, but not fact checked very well, and not a substantial disagreement wasn't put in front of the public either.
The biggest problem is there's very little space between them on what their what the platform is. Obviously, Tim Walz has done some great things in Minnesota. Big fan of him as a governor, even though not 100%. Like, there are plenty of things he did wrong, but way better than Kamala or Trump or Vance. Then they've hidden him for the he is the best part of her whole candidacy. They've hidden him, even though he did great. And also, what a misstep, because he could have gotten some a couple of moments to practice having some contentious discussions. They could have called him out on, some of the lies, fibs, whatever. I don't even think they were all that important that they had to be even discussed, but whatever. but he came out there and he looked like a deer in headlights, and like he had memorized something and he was just kind of going for like how to get to all of his script. And then, yeah, he kept just saying, and yes, there's something really comforting about seeing two people up there who are being kind and compassionate with each other, even if they disagree, but they're saying it in measured tones. I'm all for that. Like, I don't think you need to be an asshole. But the truth is, a part of the problem was on many of the things, it was like, I think we should bomb Iran. Yeah, I want to bomb Iran. I'm more of a Zionist. No, I'm more of a Zionist. I do think that, we had the border bill that every right-wing nut job wanted, and it was Trump we didn't want. We wanted to deport more people than we already like. We will keep drilling and fracking. Like what? Like, so, that's what civility politics gets you. Like, we all agree it's fine. It's all good.
Absolutely, 100,000%. But like you said, the mistake is they brought Walz on, and it did soften Kamala's image. It made Kamala seem like, okay, she might have some, behind the scenes appeal for progressivism, right. But then they hit him right away because they didn't want him talking about anything progressive, and all they do is they stole the aesthetics of Tim Walz, and they put out videos of him fake working on his truck and, stuff like that. Because that's what they want. They want to just sort of dopey, happy-go-lucky Midwestern guy is what they want. They want Joe the plumber to be her VP.
Yep.
And he was woefully unprepared because of that. So he didn't have a disastrous performance, but he didn't look comfortable. His weakness and fear of the debate process and uncomfortableness there made JD Vance look even more dignified than he should have.
Yeah.
And for them to not have trained Walz to attack better and to bring it back to policy differences, like the goal of JD Vance was to look reasonable, to squash all the shit that the Democrats would put on him, and he did that by a mile.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the goal of Democrats is to go after Republican voters. So they don't want to necessarily say horrible things about some of those policies because they endorse them wholly. Like, so that's what happens. Like Go ahead.
Well, but the independents, look, you're not going after Republicans is such a lost cause.
But they're not. They are going after Republicans.
I know, but they should be going after independents, and to independents, independents, wacky JD Vance was scary to them.
Right.
And he even let Walz let him be neutral sort of on abortion. Like he waltzed all over him.
Oh, that should have been the title.
That should have been it next time, but
we'll use it for something. All right. Well, should we get some examples?
Yeah. The clip there, we pulled a clip. Somebody, I think the recount put together a lot of the agreements on these the debate bros
friendly.
Not being Midwest friendly debate bros.
We could come together.
Now, Tim admirably admits, I appreciate what Tim said actually about Finland.
I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart.
Kamala Harris proposed this to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay. I actually agree with Tim Walz.
I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this.
And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just how do we actually do it?
I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening.
And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it.
Thank you, Senator Vance.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here, and I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator.
Me too, man.
It's like the opposite of, it was a debate. It's like, it was not a debate.
And remember, the message Democrats are putting out there is that democracy is on the line. Democracy itself is on the line. And here's the VP going, this guy's pretty reasonable. I mean, we disagree on some stuff, but we're going to get a beer after this. What?
Yeah, what a mess. What a mess. And again, like, you don't have to, sorry, I'm just reading some of your comments are so funny. yeah, they oh Lord, you guys. Yeah, that's right. They want the Romney Republicans. That's always what they want. You guys are funny. Yeah, it was okay. That said, I will say again, as opposed to the completely fake Kamala persona that she had for her, I mean, like, we just all have to remember that her very first speech out of the gate when she became the nominee, and she gets heckled and she hadn't prepared for it, and the real Kamala came out. Shut the fuck up unless you want Trump. That's what she said, basically. I am speaking, or do you want Trump? To people whose families are being exterminated in Gaza, right? Then they softened her up and they put on all, and so now she's like, I am listening, thoughts and prayers, I hear you, whatever. So she did her whole scripted nonsense word salad, and Trump is just a disaster of a human being. So at least with the two of them, and again, like, I much prefer Walz in life. Like, he's actually done good for people in his state, even though I will never vote for anybody who supports a genocide, like, ever, ever, ever. So whatever. But like, he's, I think, probably a better person. But they both felt like normal people, like having a conversation.
They did. And look, that can be the good part of it, I guess. But at the end of the day, the Republicans are up to, like, we don't like Democrats because they're full of shit with what they say. They're not going to do the things they say. But here's a Democrat not even calling out the vile stuff that Republicans really want to do. They want to really do some vile stuff. Yep. And his job was to highlight that for the independents, because you're only going to win a smidge of the Romney Republicans who want a reasonable sort of Democrat guy. Right. But there's a big swath of independents in the middle there that just want to know, is JD Vance really fucking crazy?
Right.
Is this really a radical thing? Is democracy really at stake? And this debate did not win those people over at all. They're like, well, I'm not that crazy. I'm supporting JD Vance, who's Tim Walz even thinks he's a good guy.
Yeah. And again, unfortunately, and maybe, I don't know, is it because he couldn't keep all of those different levels in his arsenal? Like, were they worried about that? Yeah.
It's inexperience. He couldn't pivot to attack Trump. What he should have been doing was attacking Trump on the policy.
Right.
And he needed to use JD Vance to get there. But instead, he was giving him a hug the whole time to try to appear folksy and like reasonable himself. But he didn't need to do that. People know he's folksy and reasonable.
I mean, honestly, the major problem is that I'm not talking about Tim Walz as governor. He and Kamala, their platform at this point isn't that much different from the JD Vance Trump platform. Like, on big issues, there wasn't a lot for him to say. Yes, okay, you can talk about abortion, and their names are so similar that I keep having to be like, wait, Walz, Vance, they sound so similar to me. I know that my COVID brain. So Vance lied, right, about he wants doctors to kill babies after they're out of the womb, whatever. Lied about that. And like, why wasn't there a bigger push even on JD? Like, listen, you lied about Haitian immigrants.
Think of all the destruction that caused. Like,
they're not illegal. Like, even though, like, I don't like that
shame
term,
him
illegal
for
alien.
that.
Yeah, like, illegal aliens, that's a disgusting term, first of all. It's 100% legal to apply for asylum. Number 2. Number 3, you lied about legal immigrants in your state, which is now causing them to have bomb threats and death threats. That's a disgusting way to try to get the ends justify the means. Like that, we can't afford to have somebody in leadership who would throw a whole community under the bus like that.
Right. And if you're Walz,
Yeah.
you need to bring that up, shame him, and you can do it in a civil way. You could say, will you pledge to not be destructive with your words to people anymore like you were in this situation? You know,
Right.
I don't know, better phrasing, but
something, yeah.
you need to do that. At no point did he ever attack JD Vance on the things that are really disgusting.
Yep.
If anything, he attacked Trump on it, but he didn't even go after Trump much. It was such a softball. It looked like two people running for the local city councilman that you watch on PBS or something.
I mean, it looked like two Republicans having a discussion.
A primary debate. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, but before we move on, I just want to thank you so much, Daniel NY1. That's really so kind and generous. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers to hope. Super sticker. Thank you for being so generous, you guys. It really means a lot to us. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers. I'm always so nervous that I'm going to get bumped off before we get to thank people. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
New banner just dropped.
Did you really make that?
I just typed that up because I got to get some love somewhere from the audience.
I am sure. I'm sure it's gonna come to you. All right. Let's just start. I mean, because the other thing is we got to talk about these hostesses, the hosts. The first question is basically, how hard are you going to push for World War III? So here's the first question on foreign policy.
Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago, a nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together. Understand.
So first of all, even that question, kind of a preemptive strike? Do you know what's a preemptive strike? Declaring war on a sovereign country. And we're just going to say that and then
de-escalation by escalation. That's the motto.
Working out.
I'm multitasking, grabbing a beer while I'm
good. I know. I'm about to have my second glass.
But that's literally it. De-escalation by escalation. Like, do you support them doing anything they can to prevent a World War III by bombing a nuclear factory?
And then to have this all started on October 7th. Are we really still doing that?
He's still doing that. And
an expansion of Israel. Basically, they are encouraging Israel to be what they've pretended Russia is. I mean, seriously, it's the craziest thing.
That was the very first question, right? That's the first response. They didn't have opening statements either. So they
both kind of worked their. I mean, they worked
JD
it
Vance,
into their first. Yeah,
JD worked in an introduction with
who
he was, but Walz didn't, right? And this was the only.
I almost shorter, but
I almost forgot about that part because that he did go after Trump a little bit there, and I think that was the hardest he did. But I don't think it landed well, and I think that kind of set him back. And he probably realized he didn't do his intro like he was trained to do.
Right.
So just on the aesthetics of the debate side of things, I think he blew it right off the gate, and that made him nervous for the next hour, probably.
Yeah, and I think, I don't think foreign policy is something he feels comfortable with. I mean, I think all of these people are woefully underinformed and victims of propaganda that then they continue to push, but they feel comfortable doing it. I think this is new for him. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Because as a governor, you're not talking about foreign policy. So he looked unprepared in that area, and it came across right away. And like his answer that we'll support, we have to grow support for Israel and its proxies. Israel doesn't have proxies. Israel is our proxy.
Right.
So somewhere he crossed that up in his head, talking point kind of thing.
Yeah. I wonder if he was supposed to say against their enemies.
Proxy enemies of Iran.
Yeah. And the
Hamas
expansion of
and
Iran. Yeah, exactly.
Hezbollah.
And
That's
just
probably
inflated it.
what happened.
Maybe he needs to look at a map. Okay. So I'm sorry, because we labeled these, but now it's a little hard for me. Okay. So this was the next bit talking. This is where he tries to go after Trump, and it kind of fails. But here's Walz talking about foreign policy under Trump.
We had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Okay, so first of all, I don't know, did you see that Jeet? Oh God, I think he writes for The Nation or Jacobin Jeet. But anyway, he was like, first time in history, a party has October surprised their own candidates, because yesterday was not a good day or a steady day for anybody in the whole world. But while Iran is lobbing bombs at military sites in Israel, Israel is not only shooting up Gaza, bombing orphanages in Gaza, punishing
That's just Gaza. They're expanding World War III right now.
That is punishment, right? And that nobody thinks that this administration is steady on any level. This is everybody is World War III trends every single day. So that was crazy. But then the Iran nuclear deal, Biden didn't like it. So when Trump reversed it, Biden comes in and has did not reinstate it, didn't even try.
That's the thing. There's so many of these policies that if they were bad, you've had 3 years to reverse or change or put back into place. And just on how it's received to people who care about Palestine, you're sitting there talking about how Donald Trump was insensitive to people who had traumatic brain injury, which is, we're talking a handful of people. I'm not minimizing that, but you're making that a focus. Well, there are literally hundreds of thousands now. Let's not sugarcoat the numbers dead in Palestine because of your administration.
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about whether it was labeled a brain injury or headache for a couple people. It just, the optics of it just rang really wrong to me. And the fact that there's no other discussion from that, they don't bring it back to, they never talk about Palestine's right to exist in this whole thing, of course.
At all.
But
no, of course not. And again, just as it's difficult for Walz to call Vance out on a bunch of stuff because his, ticket basically agrees and is trying to outright them. The same, Vance could be well, you guys are doing a genocide, because they'd be yeah, we got to do a genocide too. We're going to do it too. It's just the state of, we do not have oppositional parties. I know we all know this, but watching the bear hug debate was really something.
Yeah. How much do you support the death? I support it a lot. I support it a lot. That's pretty much it.
But here's the problem. Vance's retort was actually made a lot of sense. So here's Vance's point.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
I mean, listen, when Trump's administration assassinated Soleimani, I thought we're like, this is it. We're going to have World War III. And obviously Trump is a moron and totally like the chaos agent. I agree with. I think Trump is a chaos agent, but I also think, and I don't want to govern this way, but I do think that it had a sort of chilling effect. Like you don't want to poke that bear or something. I don't even know, but this has been way worse.
Totally accurate that his chaotic putting us on the edge of World War III thing did actually help protect us somewhat. I mean, versus the strategy of let's just back the bad guys in all these wars. Like that's not working out very well for us right now. So
and for people who don't really know the intricacies, right? They're looking and they're probably like, yeah, we weren't having two different wars under Trump.
Yes. And you know, if you're Walz, you need to counter that with, okay, we were on the edge of World War III with the Soleimani thing. You know, you need to bring these facts up, right? Yeah. You need to come back with some data and something, not just.
I mean, nobody.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say nobody because obviously George W. was awful, but like, it's really hard to talk foreign policy when you are either part of this administration or running with somebody who is the second in command to an administration that, you know, has a proxy war going on with Russia, just destroying Ukraine for truly no reason except for money, always, right? And then doing a genocide of Palestinians and also starting a war, like attacking Lebanon and starting a war with Iran. Like, what can you even say at that point? Steady hand. Yeah. I mean, that's what he said. Steady hand, steadily just plunging us into World War III.
Right. That's why there was no further debate on it. They both wanted out of it. Like, yeah, we checked the box. Israel, we got you. Next question.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. I mean, I don't even know. Like, what are we going to talk about? Climate doesn't matter. Climate investments, like none of this is serious because Walz is just like, we do oil, we do frack, we are going to be big producers, but we believe in science. And then Vance says, yeah, we believe in science too. We just don't. Oh, that was the other thing. Did you notice Vance kept saying, he kind of like took on the word weird.
I heard that a couple times,
like 4 or 5 different times. But so then, yeah, that happens with the climate investment where Walz talks about the Inflation Reduction Act.
Back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act has created jobs all across the country. 2000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're
So this is why they can't do fact checking, because they've let things float from Tim Walz that they just don't even say anything, right? And then they're going to fact check what's his face next, Vance.
Are you playing that one? Oh,
I'm going to play it. I'm so like, all of this is just miserable. Okay, so then here's Vance.
Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world.
So the real answer to that is, what would you want to do? You would not want to expand fracking. You would want to say fracking is illegal. We're done fracking, because that right there emits more carbon in the oxygen than anything else on Earth. And the other thing you'd want to say is, well, let's stop the biggest polluters in the earth. Our military is the number one polluter in the entire world.
Right.
So
again, they're like, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I mean, I don't know if Trump ever said it was a hoax. And I don't know why he said the thing about carbon emissions. Like, that's ridiculous. So that's what they end up fact checking him on. The one fact check, I think, was no. Carbon emissions are responsible for climate change. But what difference does it make if everybody just says, no, I believe there is climate change and we all want clean water and we all want clean air. We're going to continue fracking. We're going to continue funding the military. We are not going to fund FEMA. And so now we're all in agreement. I mean, like, what difference does any of this even make?
Yeah, where's the pressure? Like, the thing Walz didn't do is say, he didn't lay out the problem. And by letting JD Vance lawyer his way through this, like, we're not that far apart, and, you know, let's distract you with carbon over here. The urgency needs to come. Somebody needs to tell the planet that this is important. And that's JD Vance's alleged job as a Democrat, but they no longer believe it's that important, which is seen by their actions with fracking.
Yeah.
And JD Vance was trying to make that point, that you guys aren't taking it that seriously, or else you would do these things. But he went the wrong way. He's bringing it back to just American jobs, MAGA first, drill baby drill.
Which is what Walz said to begin with. So we're going to do all the EV, like, EV is not, electric vehicles are not going to save us from climate change. Like, we need mass free transit. We need to rethink our overconsumption. We need, like, a million things have to happen before we just start making a new kind of car with rubber tires and all the things that are still gonna, like, it's a little bit of a band-aid, but like, most people can't even afford it, whatever. But like, they basically were saying the same thing. We're going to bring manufacturing back here, and we're just gonna, and you know, the whole carbon emission thing, if you can buy your way out of all the damage your company does with carbon emissions, with fines, as you're raking in billions of dollars destroying the planet, then, like, that's the Democrats' solution, right? We'll do, what is it called? The carbon tax to kind of like negate your carbon footprint. It doesn't negate it. Did I silence you? I kind of love it. I'm just going to keep talking.
Silence. I self-moderated.
Anyway, again, not enough differences. We are in climate emergency right now. Fines aren't going to do it.
Literally, we had this climate disaster, Hurricane Helene, $90 billion shortfall. Look, look at how that lines up directly with 8.7 billion to Israel. I bet it was 9 billion before the report came out. Just to they're like, oh, we'll just drop it a little bit. We'll just make it not an exact number.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how much Biden Harris care about it. On September 26th, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell updated reporters on the forecast for supporting communities suffering from Hurricane Helene's damage and said, we're already through immediate needs funding, INF, $9 billion, close to $9 billion, in projects that we have put on hold that we can't reimburse communities for. But we never, how are we going to pay for it to send more money to start World War III and genocide a whole people? All right. Then we talked a little bit about listening to experts. Do you want to do that? I don't even know. Yeah. All right. Here we go. It's so painful.
Economists can't be trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years, and the last year as president? That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing.
I mean, we talk about the thing of listen to the experts, which can really be cherry picked to make it sound like the economists and the Democrats who supported NAFTA and TPP and exporting jobs for their big neoliberal project. They are like experts, right? They fail up. Doesn't matter how many times they screw over working class people or they're wrong. They just keep writing for The Atlantic and being pundits on MSNBC. So like in that regard, you know, it's just so hard because again, they negate each other. They neutralize each other because they both.
Yeah. Well, to me, what it comes down to is, look, yes, we should be listening to the experts, but we're listening to the politicians channel the experts they like, not the experts. Right. If you listen to the experts on the climate, they say fracking's got to go now. As to EV, Zaina was talking about it, you know, you need to produce coal, dig coal to get EV. I think EV is a good solution. It's a good interim solution personally, but we don't have the grid set up for it either. So it brings all its own problems. Right. You know, but if you listen to the experts, they're not the people that either of these two parties put out to people, because if they put out the experts on climate, they would say, I don't endorse Joe Biden because he's going to get us all. He's inhumanity. Yeah, exactly. You cannot support this war. You cannot support fracking, drilling in, you know, Arctic. I mean, like the pipelines, all of it. You can say all you want. I believe in climate change, but if everything, all of your actions are contributing to it, but they can't call each other out on it. Okay. What was this bit? I don't know. We should have been more detailed in our labeling. Experts too. Let's see what it says. It's only 30 seconds.
Many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop. And we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in.
I don't even know what any of that is. But yeah, I mean, Democrats have done such disservice to themselves because the truth is it's all capitalism. They just want to make more money. So they really don't have a leg to stand on. The only thing they can really talk about are, you guys say shitty things about the LGBTQ group and you want to get rid of abortion. That's pretty much all they have.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got into healthcare a little bit too.
Yeah.
And
but we're like, what are we going to do? More of Obamacare, which is a Heritage Foundation project, which is Project 2025. So like,
it's all just so murky because like Walz brings up, Donald Trump tried to remove Obamacare, which is right. Trump tried through the courts legally and lost, could not remove Obamacare, but it's also true that he had no plan to replace it with anything. But in this debate, JD Vance seems reasonable by saying, they worked to improve Obamacare. One thing Trump did was put in fair pricing to where hospitals had to list the cost of their operations and surgeries and things. Right. So that inarguably is a good thing added to Obamacare. So he gets to get away with saying, well, we sort of saved Obamacare because of this. Right. There's no real debate on it. There's not like we need something further than Obamacare. That's not part of this discussion at all.
Exactly.
It's just, is that good enough? Obamacare is good enough. We all agree.
Yeah.
We all agree Obamacare is good enough as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and Walz also brought up wanting to expand what they did for seniors with their $35 insulin,
right.
Which, expanded, but you didn't do that for seniors. You only did that for a segment of seniors. Like you didn't even do the one thing, like everybody doesn't even get insulin at $35 when it.
Right. I mean, It's all just tinkering around the edges. So it's which small adjustment is better. That's all they can come to. Okay. This to me was weird. Weird. Walz apparently, I didn't even know this was some big controversy, but I guess he said that he was there in
Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, in the summer of the Tiananmen Square uprising, and it turns out that was in June, and he wasn't there till August. So, not even close to a Joe Biden lie, like, oh, I graduated top in my class, or the man who was in the accident with my wife and daughter was drunk, or I was arrested with Nelson Mandela, like nothing like that. So what he could have said is, listen, I got there a couple months later. There was still in the throes of fighting for democracy, and I felt it. And so I misspoke, but it was that time frame.
Yeah. I was there during revolutionary actions.
Times. Yeah.
Which is accurate.
It is accurate.
So in his history, he went to China like 30 times or something.
Yeah.
He went he had a program he created. He's done lots of like good, honest, progressive things. He was a teacher and he created this program,
like an exchange kind of thing for students.
Yeah. And so he would go over there a lot and bring back good ideas. He said that there were a bunch of good things about China that we could learn from. And he was also very critical of China. It was like an honest assessment that I would probably agree with him largely on.
Yeah. But instead it gets made, I mean, it's so funny, different, but it's kind of what they did to Bernie with the Fidel Castro thing.
They're trying that. They're spinning that whole, he's a communist.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit. Cause like, I really don't even understand, like they didn't talk about COVID in this, and which is still killing, like 1,300 people.
But they did a little bit. They brought it up in Vance attacked Walz for the lockdowns, basically,
Right.
and the anti-science of the lockdowns, and
Right.
it never went anywhere, but he went after him for it, which is another thing. It's like, well, if I care about lockdowns, I'm just like, you guys merged, you guys are the same party. I mean, if I care about COVID, you're the same party.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And by the way, like, it was under Trump that the lockdown started, and thank goodness, because nobody knew what the hell was happening with COVID, and we needed that to happen. And then it became a whole Republican freedom, my freedoms and whatever. And now Democrats are the same. So yeah, you can't really even talk about that. But so this was probably Walz's worst bit from people who don't really care about policy, but just like watching the debate and seeing him not able to fully respond in a satisfying way.
Yeah, if you didn't know
yeah.
the situation behind this, you would think, oh, this guy's lying.
Yeah, exactly.
From this response.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this is I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Vance, in 2016, you called your run.
I mean, it's so awkward. It doesn't have to be such a gotcha. It's like, yeah, I was off. I was swept up. Anyway, it just feels so strange that that is something that was so difficult for him, which then makes me start thinking, like, is something deeper going on? Like, what is happening? Why? But
like,
anyway.
Is there something there? Like,
yeah.
it makes me wonder too, but
so
I don't think
bizarre.
there is, but like, such a weird, and he got praised for that by some people, the pundits after the debate.
Oh, really?
Like,
I saw
this was a refreshing moment of
hammering him. Oh, that's funny. Because we didn't pull the first part, which is him talking for like a minute and a half and not responding, which was probably, I just realized we were getting long on time. But when she first asks him, he just kind of like starts rambling all over the place, which is why in this clip, she comes back and she's like, but wait, so what's the answer? And if he had just done that bit, actually, that would have been a lot better. So I should have showed the first part. But anyway, I didn't want to make everybody suffer through it.
It does. We don't have forever.
Yeah. All right. But this was the last bit that everybody's like, this was JD Vance's worst moment, which is if Trump doesn't win again, or right now, if you were asked, did he lose in 2020? What would your response be? Did Biden win? Did Trump lose? Would you support one of these types of January 6th insurrection, overthrow the results if it happened again? So he also bumbles through it, and then Walz kind of pushes him on it.
And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It is. It's a damning non-answer.
That actually might be the only COVID thing that I was referring to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that was the COVID discussion part. That's it. That right there.
And by the way, he's right about that part, even though it has nothing to do with the question. But like, people were silenced when they were like, I don't know, are the vaccines completely shutting down the virus? Is it like I know there were the other people like whatever, Joe Rogan, who talked about ivermectin, but like, our show got shut down and banned from YouTube because we said you should still wear a mask, even
right. And that fine line between who's spreading misinformation intentionally versus who's spreading what they think is information versus who's spreading the truth, because we were listening to the actual experts.
Right.
But all that's in flux and was always in flux.
The CDC, because
the
CDC wasn't listening to actual science. But so our show was banned, that episode. So like, it's like they all suck. But the other thing that really, they are honored, apparently, the Tim Walz, no, what's her, God, their names, the Harris Walz ticket, honored to have the support of the insurrectionist who was successful? Dick Cheney.
Right.
So like, I feel like, I mean, that's a wash. Sorry. I mean, the only thing you can say is like the guy on our side actually managed to overthrow the will of the people and your guy didn't. Nice try.
All right. So this little clip might get us kicked off temporarily, but we'll be back. And Lila was like, maybe we shouldn't show it, but I
it's fine. To just, if it does, it's Jimmy Kimmel. If it does, it's only like 30 seconds. If it blacks out, the last time we got a notice saying once we took that clip off, our show would keep broadcasting. So we might not even have to restart anything. And it's only 30 seconds. But if it really does short. And it doesn't come, I will restart a whole new pod. Let's go.
I just thought this was gross. And it's like,
it's like
you don't
the
need to go to
liberals.
this stuff. I know you're a comedian, but I don't know.
But you're not funny.
Here's the clip.
JD Vance hasn't been under a microscope like this since his wife asked him why the couch was so sticky. But Trump had good advice. He told him, just have fun. And you know what? It seems like he did.
I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
That's how you get the single cat ladies back on your side. You know, in some ways, you can't help but you kind of feel sympathy for J.D. Vance having to defend Donald Trump, who he himself openly denounced. It's kind of like being Diddy's defense attorney, you know? All
right. So my beef with that, look, there's so many gross policy things, and fine. The cat part is sort of real, you know, that he went there with the cats, but like,
I didn't want it to drip all over the
But
place.
like to bring up the couch fucking thing, like this guy just had a reasonable debate, and you're pushing these narratives that the Democratic Party is pushing, that he's this wacky, crazy guy. Fine, but he didn't fuck couches. You don't have to go there because that's a lie. So like you're just creating propaganda and then tying him to Diddy because it's a popular new thing. Like, make fun of him on the policy, make fun of him on the real stuff. This is fake because he had a good debate, a reasonable, good debate. And here you just turn right to the dumb lowest denominator shit. And if you're a Republican watching this, you know that. And that's why they hate Kimmel even more. So it just creates more of a divide in like this.
Yeah.
You guys are lying. So you're crying wolf here with these lies you're putting out about my guy that I like.
I mean, none of it even, if policy mattered at all. I mean, it's just, liberals really don't care about policy at all. So when Trump goes back to being a Democrat and whoever the hell runs, I don't even know who it will be, they'll accept Trump's money and his endorsement and feel honored, and they'll give him throat lozenges and give him a hug, and
we'll probably get the other side of that, which is Dick Cheney running as a Democrat, Romney running as a Democrat. We're going to get some Republicans running as Democrats because that's the next leap in where the party's headed. Just straight up, these Republicans we embraced, let's bring them in because then they can bring that rhetoric into a Democratic primary to where all that progressive stuff is so far gone left now. We're not even going to pretend to be any of that shit anymore, which the donors would love that. And that's what's coming.
Yeah. Donors have gotten exactly everything they want. We're not talking about any broad policy that is wildly popular with the whole country, even Republicans, people who don't vote, independents, and certainly their base. None of it because of their donors. So that's where we are. They're going to make fun. Yeah, they're just going to make fun of eyeliner and couches.
Yeah, baby.
I just did. Oh, it's Wednesday though. I got you. 1 second. All right, let me spin it again. I do. I have my Wednesday shots. Okay, 1 second. Close.
Yeah, baby.
I'll bring back shots when I get off my ass.
All right. Oh,
soon.
Okay, timeline close. And
Cleanse.
cheers.
Well, let's stick with the debate-ish stuff.
Okay.
Am I glad that I ain't got to be doing that right now? But go Tim. Yeah, that's good. Tim is a coach, and he's got the playbook to tell JD Vance where, okay, he can stuff it. I wonder how long into this debate until he starts bringing up cats and dogs and other lies. Maybe that's his next book, Cats and Dogs and Other Lies. JD, you can have that. JD said he's gonna be in the spin room, okay, afterwards. And I think that that's incredible, that he's already trying to spin before it's happened. What a little bitch. I'm sorry to the child. I didn't mean to cuss. But what a Sorry, child. It's Representative Charlotte, okay? And she is a Republican, but we forgive her. I am just so glad that I have Tim on my side, even though he eats tacos that are bland, okay? And what I wouldn't consider to be tacos, those are wraps. Those are wraps that are open. And JD, I hope you have enough eyeliner for those stage lights. Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Magaline. Okay, Kamala out.
She does a good job.
She does a good. I wish she would be a little more left, because she actually didn't. She say she's going to vote for Kamala.
She's going to vote for Kamala because Hillary was right about everything, and Pied Pipering Trump into the presidency has been the biggest gift to Democrats. So, well done, Hillary. Thanks.
Bastards.
All right. That was kind of it, right? That's it. We're moving
on. Good old Israel. We don't have a lot on Israel. We'll kind of get through it.
Yeah, we don't have a lot, except that
we do have a lot, but we're
they're now just carpet bombing Beirut, and starting war with Iran, who has been very measured after, they killed an ambassador, they killed Hamia in Iran, and Iran has not responded at all. And worse than that is that Brett McGurk, who was the George W. Bush in his State Department, I don't know exactly what his title was, but basically helped sell the lie and get us into Iraq, killing 1 million people for no reason at all. It has just been revealed that Washington gave Israel the green light to mount an offensive in contrast to its public calls for a ceasefire. The U.S. government quietly approved Israel's military campaign in Lebanon, despite publicly urging the Jewish state and militant group Hezbollah to seek a ceasefire. Israel has waged a week-long bombing campaign in Lebanon, assassinating most of the Hezbollah leadership, and is in the process of what it describes as a limited incursion into its northern neighbor. Over 1,000 people, including many civilians, have been killed and over 1 million displaced. This is from September, and already at that point, I don't know if you even see, there are little yellow bubbles, which you can't see because of all the purple bubbles. And the bubbles are symbolizing deaths. Those are killed people. So that is proportionality, Israel style. That's what they've been doing. And mostly Lebanon has been very measured, and now Iran has been very measured, only trying to attack Israel's military bases, as opposed to Israel, which is bombing major civilian areas in a major city in Beirut. And they're now talking about possibly striking Iran's nuclear arsenals. That's where we are.
And just think about the 1,000 people there in Lebanon, right? I mean, what was 9/11? 2,000 people, maybe?
Yeah, just under 3,000.
Under 3,000, right? So they're showing restraint in an attack in their country that just killed 1,000 people. And this is the U.S., it's no surprise we're backing this at this point, because when we were attacked and 3,000 people, just under 3,000 died, we killed 1 million of the wrong people. And that was okay. And we've never had consequences internationally for doing that. Even the politicians backing it had no consequence. I mean,
that was, I mean, putting Citibank, filling his cabinet with Citibank was the first horrific thing that Obama did. And the second, much worse, I guess, I don't even know, they're both horrible, was not prosecuting any of the war criminals and saying we just got to look forward. We tortured some folks.
And the argument that they're de-escalating by escalating, like we're going to bomb them to where they're not going to. Iran has the capabilities of inflicting major harm, and they will be doing that. And they're provoked to do it more and more. And that you're going to get an alliance in the region of all the Middle Eastern countries over there against Israel. And you already have it, but even they are showing restraint in this moment because they don't want it. And here we are, just let's increase the Israel's terrorism in every other country over there, and let's support it.
And the one thing every leader of all of the countries there who have spoken up has said is,
we're still here for a peace deal.
We want a peace deal, and we want Palestinian self-determination. And Israel will not allow it. They're bombing the hell out of 3 different countries while also genociding the Palestinians whom they occupy and dominate. And the way it's framed by US media and by our State Department is, well, Israel has the right to self-defense, and we just want peace, and Iran shouldn't attack Israel unprovoked. I mean, God, watching this, and it's the same playbook again. History started on October 7th because of Hamas. Before that, Russia unprovoked. I mean, that was like the line that everybody had, or the word everybody had to say before anything about Russia's incursion, war crime, invading Ukraine, but like unprovoked, not unprovoked. So we really the playbook over and over.
It feels like Lockheed Martin runs our entire country now. You know, it feels like that's it, because it's not about our survival, our safety, Israel's survival, Israel's safety.
It's good for business, baby.
I didn't know you pulled that graphic. Look at you. We are in sync here.
We're in sync. I knew right where it was fast.
But none of these decisions are helping us or Israel. And the whole world is watching us back this terrible, fucking awful genocide. And they see it expanding. You got all these reports that, oh, behind the scenes, Biden's mad. Well, behind the scenes, they approved this attack.
They encouraged it. This was the Jordanian foreign minister at the UN talking a couple days ago, and it was pretty powerful. Listen, anyway, I'm just going to leave it there, and we can talk about it after.
I want to add one sentence. The Israeli prime minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab committee mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries. And I can tell you here, very unequivocally, all of us are willing to, right now, guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state, along the efforts that we all agree. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask Israeli officials, what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries in the context of ending the occupation, withdrawing from Arab territory, allowing for the emergence of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state on June 4, 1967, lies with occupied Jerusalem as capital. That is our narrative. That is, and we will guarantee Israel's security in that context. Can you ask Israelis what's their narrative other than I'm going to continue to go to war, I'm going to kill this and kill that and destroy this and this that? The amount of damage that Israeli government has done, 30 years of efforts to convince people that peace is possible, this Israeli government killed it. The amount of dehumanization, hatred, bitterness will take generations to navigate to navigate through. So ultimately, the question is, we want peace, and we've laid out a plan for peace. Ask any Israeli official, what is their plan for peace? You'll get nothing, because they're only thinking of the first step. We're going to go destroy Gaza, inflame the West Bank, destroy Lebanon, and after that, they have no plan. We have a plan. We have no partner for peace in Israel. There is a partner for peace in the Arab world.
Yeah. Listen, there's a way to stop this. We all know, and it's not happening. And it's always for financial reasons. I mean, that's just really what it is. I mean, I know there's some people who are ideologically Zionists, but I think the heads of state, the hesitancy is because they have to show deference to the US, and because they know that being in bed with the US and the West and Saudi Arabia is good for their pocketbooks.
But this is the global decline. This is where BRICS has taken over. We are in decline, and we're in the wrong. So it should happen. But
and there was a really good moment. I am shocked that Matt Miller at the State Department keeps calling on Prem Tucker, who's doing really good work. He was at The Intercept. Now he works for Drop Site, the new venture with Jeremy Scahill and Ryan Grimm, and pressing Matt Miller on the ceasefire. And, they just can't help. They're such liars that sometimes they get ahead of themselves and they say something. And I kind of wish that Prem Tucker had kind of stuck with it a little more, because it's incredibly revealing. Just as a reminder, if you want to see, if you want a ceasefire with a nation or with a, part of your country that you are genociding and controlling and making an open air concentration camp, the way Israel's done to Gaza and they're now doing to the West Bank, who do you negotiate with? If you only negotiate with friends, then you don't even need to negotiate, right? So this whole thing of no, we will not negotiate with Putin. We can't. He's worse than Hitler. Well, now you've made it impossible. You can never negotiate with Russia.
Well, they killed Palestinians' best top negotiator, literally assassinated him in another Middle Eastern country.
That's right.
How are you seeking peace when you're inciting violence? You're bringing a whole nother country into it. First off, for committing a war crime
in a sovereign nation, and yes, killing your partner in peace, Ismail Haniyeh. So but anyway, this was a really good exchange from I think yesterday.
Prem, go ahead.
Thank you, Matt. What we're seeing in Lebanon, we saw a similar pattern with regards to Rafah. First, the U.S. saying that they wouldn't want to see Israel conducting major operations, then Israel going ahead with what they called limited operations, and then this continued tolerance of sort of day-to-day attacks. That has led to over 44% of all buildings in Rafah being either destroyed or damaged, according to satellite photos, which is to say that there might not have been a major operation in Rafah, but there was cumulative attacks that led to a good deal of destruction. So how does this precedent of Rafah portend for Lebanon?
So every conflict is different, but if you look at what we continue to engage with Israel about when it comes to Lebanon, is ensuring that they have the ability to attack terrorist targets, terrorist infrastructure, a terrorist organization, but ultimately we want to see a diplomatic resolution.
Well, was that the case with Rafah, for instance, not just in Rafah, but
we've never wanted to see a diplomatic resolution with Hamas.
Well, okay. Well, what about the ceasefire?
We wanted to see a ceasefire, but we have always been committed to the destruction of Hamas. We did want to see a ceasefire, but we have always made clear that we wanted to see a different authority moving forward in governance of Gaza.
Okay, but so for instance, other UN satellite image shows that 66% of Gaza structures have been damaged, and you earlier today said that the U.S. supports the targeting of terrorist infrastructure, not civilian infrastructure. Does the U.S. believe 66% of Gaza's buildings are terrorist infrastructure?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Which is why we have been engaged to try to reach a ceasefire to end that conflict, which is why we have been pushing for a ceasefire to months. And I wish that Hamas would come to the table and work with us on a ceasefire. As you heard me saying earlier, Hamas has been absent for weeks, won't even respond to the mediators putting forward ideas asking whether they would agree to a ceasefire or not. Look, you can talk about Israel and the culpability that Israel has and the tough decisions that Israel needs to make. And it's absolutely true that Israel needs to make tough decisions to get to a ceasefire. But the way out of this conflict is a ceasefire. And it is Hamas that's missing in action right now that won't come to the table to talk about one.
Yeah.
It's such a lie that he keeps saying. Yeah, sorry, good. Yeah.
No, 66% of buildings destroyed in Gaza. The most targeted military on earth.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's all lies. First of all, like 3 days after October 7th, Hamas said we will return all the hostages for a ceasefire. So that was number one. And then there have been several ceasefire agreements since then that Hamas had said that they will sign on to. And Israel's always the one who walks away or puts in some ridiculous, exception or caveat. But also, you don't get to tell another group of people who gets to lead them.
Absolutely.
Devin, thank you. I just saw he reminded me I have not done the favorite part of the show for Pat. Please make sure to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell. Thank you. It is so disgusting. Everybody sees what's happening, and yet it keeps happening. I mean, it's maddening. It's like banging our heads against a wall. Was this, Alan McLeod. So he also does this. He's with Mint Press, but just like Asal Rod, points out often
the language in front
the language of the media. And here's the Washington Post with 4 different headlines. I mean, just think: Israeli forces move into southern Lebanon. Israeli launches a ground operation in southern Lebanon. Israel preparing for possible ground maneuver in Lebanon. Israel begins ground offensive against Hezbollah. I mean, just imagine for a second, for another country's military coming onto our soil and telling us what to do. It is so preposterous. It's like even just like one bomb, right? Like the planes on 9/11 changed everything about the US. And we're still like, Biden stopped the emergency declaration for COVID a year or two ago. He still has been renewing 23 years later, the emergency declaration from 9/11. That still is in place.
Yeah. This is not a fix, but this is a little bit of a mini timeline cleanse.
Okay, give it to me. I need it.
We'll probably get kicked off of this, but
oh geez.
It's one of those.
All the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten us. And what that means is that in the tiny area between the Jordan River
There isn't really a rat in there, though, is there?
No, they would not have. Come on.
I don't want to see it.
Craig says hello.
All
right.
Yeah. And, there are, sorry, I'm trying to find the war crimes that everybody knows about are being documented. And I know that's important. Of course, it's important to document them. And at some point, it will be something to shove in people's faces. But the fact that it's already started in Lebanon, just decimating cities, like with complete abandon. What's the day after project? What's the plan? Nobody's even being asked to talk about it anymore. We know that Netanyahu, and this is where Israeli media is much more honest, like talking about how Netanyahu he's totally abandoned a release of the hostages. I mean, I'm sure he knows that they've probably killed all of them anyway. This is the guy who, you know, did the Hannibal directive and probably killed a huge number of the people who died on October 7th that keep just being pushed onto Hamas. So like, what is the plan? What do they, does that matter? Like, does anybody, like when I say, oh, let's go out for dinner, I am like, well, if you fail to plan to fail, right? So like you make a reservation, you ask for it to be outside, you do all the things. When you start a fucking war, you should have like a plan. Nobody cares. Nobody even asks.
And nobody asked our presidential candidates, because it's just, how much do you support Israel? There's no anti-war movement discussion on the electoral stage, and Democrats aren't doing anything. All our massive protests aren't doing anything. The world is protesting just as hard as we think we are here in the US, even though we're the most culpable, but other countries are constantly just as active as we are, and they're not even financing this thing, trying to get their government to get out of it. But it's not working. So what do we do next? You know, we need massive disruption. We need something further. We cannot try to co-opt Democrats. We cannot push them left. We need something else. I wish I was an expert in what that was, but
yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is either. It was interesting. And I'm kind of shocked, actually, that Ta-Nehisi Coates has come out with this new book, The Message, and is making the media circuit, doing the media circuit now. And he was on a CBS morning show.
He's 95% great.
Yeah.
5% shit lib.
Yeah.
But still, this was good.
But this was good. It was actually a 6-minute clip. It's only 2 minutes, but well, I don't even know. Maybe like I don't know. Do we want to show that, or do we want to show him at the uncommitted convention? Because I don't even know. I'm so frustrated, and I feel like any voice that's out there talking that's getting national attention, it's so important and so wonderful, but I don't know. It happens like in a little bubble, and then it just goes away. And as you said, like nothing we do seems to matter.
Well, play it, because we need to amplify it. Maybe people will amplify it.
All right. So this is him on CBS this morning with Tony Decapile or whatever, who I just have to say, this asshole Zionist who converted to Judaism for his wife, who's now divorced him and who's living in Israel with their 2 children. But apparently when they were still married and he was talking about the conversion, talked about getting circumcised as an adult. Just keep that in mind as you watch him being the biggest asshole in the world.
don't like the word cuck.
What is it that so particularly offends you about the existence of a Jewish state that is a Jewish safe place and not any of the other states out there?
There's nothing that offends me about a Jewish state. I am offended by the idea of states built on ethnocracy, no matter where they are.
Muslim included.
I would not want a state where any group of people lay down their citizenship rights based on ethnicity. The country of Israel is a state in which half the population exists on one tier of citizenship, and everybody else that's ruled by Israelis exists on another tier, including Palestinian Israeli citizens. The only people that exist on that first tier are Israeli Jews. Why do we support that? Why is that okay? I'm the child of Jim Crow. I'm the child of people that were born into a country where that was exactly the case, of American apartheid. I walk over there and I walk through the occupied territories and I walk down a street in Hebron. And a guy says to me, I can't walk down the street unless I profess my religion. I'm with another path. No. I want to. This is very, very important.
It is important. It is
extremely important.
Yeah, let me lay it down.
I'm working with the person that is guiding me is a Palestinian whose father, whose grandfather and grandmother was born in this town. And I have more freedom to walk than he does. He can't ride on certain roads. He can't get water in the same way that Israeli citizens who live less than a mile away from him can.
And why
is that okay?
Why is that? Why is there no agency in this book for the Palestinians? They exist in your narrative merely as victims of the Israelis, as though they were not offered peace at any juncture, as though they don't have a stake in this as well. What is their role in the lack of a Palestinian?
I have a very, 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 very moral compass about this. And again, perhaps it's because of my ancestry. Either apartheid is right or it's wrong. It's really, really simple. Either what I saw was right or it's wrong. I am, for instance, against the death penalty. What the person did to get the death penalty, it really doesn't matter to me. I don't care if they were selling a nickel bag of marijuana or if they were a serial killer. I am against the death penalty. I am against a state that discriminates against people on the basis of ethnicity. I'm against that. There is nothing the Palestinians could do that would make that okay for me. My book is not based on the hyper-morality of the Palestinian people.
In lessons, because
I mean, the crazy thing is, well, first of all, like blaming the subjugated population for their subjugation is.
Yeah. What did they do, basically? Like,
yeah. Where's their agency?
What?
Yeah. He started off at the beginning of this appearance, that Tony Dokapool, whatever his name is, guy, saying, if you weren't a celebrated author who I knew, and I read this book, I would think it was a terrorist manifesto, just because it's arguing for the self-determination and human rights of Palestinians. And then at the very end, he says, don't worry, you're still invited to Rosh Hashanah dinner. Like, don't worry, you're still part of the club, but I can disinvite you at any point. Like, you're a terrorist. I mean, that's a CBS morning show. And
that's
those other
so
two clowns just sit there doing nothing and trying to like
so
get off the
normalized for him to say, what did they do to deserve the two-state system where they're treated like slavery?
Yeah.
You know, like
Why
that's kind of what he's.
Germans hated Jews so much. What did they do to deserve it?
Right.
Where's the Jewish agency in the Holocaust? What did they do to make Germans hate them so much? I mean, really, like, it's crazy that I have to substitute other groups in there, but I feel like when I don't, people, the bigotry is so deeply ingrained that unless you do that with another group and show how outrageous it is, it's just kind of accepted.
And the fact that this guy is coming from that position and speaking to a black man, and he inherited this racist belief from his wife, who he married. It's such a strong belief to some of these people that they're second-class citizens. You know, they are. What do they do to deserve being in this open-air prison and not getting food and bombed? And, you know, maybe if they don't want their kids to starve by not having food, maybe they should vote differently. You know, this is the logic.
I mean, you know, Hillary says that all the time. Oh, we gave the money and it's a corrupt government. They stole it. They could have built the most beautiful new Gaza in 2006, except that we don't let them. We have like whatever it is, 60-70% of their water. We shut off their electricity from, you know, a certain point of the day. We ration the food that's allowed in. We ban certain foods. But other than that, they have total self-determination.
And I think it's like 60% of the people there are starving now. And I really hate the food insecurity framing of it, like food insecure. They're starving. Like, you're starving all these people.
I mean, seeing babies that aren't chubby is horrifying. And seeing them, babies, be skin and bones, like anybody's skin and bones and starving. And by the way, like, it's always intentional. I mean, this is a much more direct line. Nobody in this whole world needs to starve. We all know, but like, it's always intentional. Like, we see people in Africa and it's like, oh, wow, you know, that like they're starving because I can't remember who said it, but like, it's not that they're a poor country, they're a rich country. It's just that all of their resources are being stolen by the West, right? Like there's no reason that anybody in this whole world needs to starve. But to see it happen so quickly, I don't think it's ever happened so quickly before, is what most medical experts are saying, healthcare experts, human rights experts, right? So yeah. Okay. What do you want to move to?
Are we moving off of Israel? We probably should. Let's.
Yeah. All right. Wait, let's just make sure there's no other thing that we needed to show. One thing I did want to say, we didn't point this out on Sunday, but I think, Moeen Rabbani is this brilliant historian, and he was saying, take a look at what Israel's Dahiyya doctrine, I'm going to say it wrong, Dahiyya doctrine is, and what it is. And it started, I think, in 82. It was named for the invasion of Lebanon then. But Israeli military strategy involving the large-scale destruction of civilian infrastructure in order to pressure hostile governments. The doctrine was outlined by former Israeli Defense Forces Chief of General Staff, whatever, Eisenkot, who said Israel should target economic interests in the centers of civilian power, war crimes against the Geneva Convention, that support the organization. The logic is to harm the civilian population so much that they will then turn against the militants. And that is named after a town in Lebanon, which is, again, when Israel says, oh, well, it's because Hezbollah has their bases underneath.
Yeah, of course.
By the way, there was just on CNN, what's his name? God, what is his name? Sorry, I had it here. Jim Shudo, talking about Iran lobbing bombs at Israel. And he said also, he was like, Israel has all of their headquarters and military bases in the middle of civilian structures. So everybody's kind of concerned. But Israel has shown for decades that you can just bomb whatever you want to bomb. Okay, yeah, I know.
International law for thee, but not for me.
Exactly.
Basically. It's U.S. and Israel right there.
Yep. Wheel
it. Let's go.
Wheel it. Let's see it.
Yeah, baby.
All right. I think I know what you do.
I'm going to remove that. I'm going to pour myself a shot, and I'm going to spin again.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, I'm going to pour a big shot.
Down to a green beer. I got my invisible beer.
I love the invisible one. That always makes me happy. Okay, 1 second. And okay.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
Let's do cats v dogs.
All right.
La pizza. Mayday.
Çok ayıp ya, öyle mi yapalım? Why are you standing in the kitty bed? Is it because the kitty is in your bed? Is that it? Oh, oh buddy.
So cute.
Oh my God, my heart just yeah, beam.
That's very cute.
You know, when I was a kid, we had a cat that you could touch on the butt and it would go attack our dog.
Are you serious?
On demand. It was like he hated that spot and it would just get mad and it would go attack the dog.
That's funny.
As a kid, sorry. It was
That's
immoral.
That's all right. All right. Moving on to what are we moving on to? I mean, we didn't even talk about like.
Sorry, Devin. I just have to share. I'm drinking New Glory Ubadank. Ubadank. It's my beer.
All right.
He asked in the chat. Sorry.
Okay. Wow. I cannot multitask as fast as you do. Oh boy.
Well, because you're listening, and I'm just like you're talking, and I'm like, oh, what's Chet got to say, and kind of.
No, I like that. I always want to know what everybody is saying, and then I miss it. We didn't even talk about, just really quickly before we go to COVID. Is that what we're running on? Because we didn't even talk about like the debate poll or what people thought or anything. Do we want to just do a little bit since we're not going to really get there?
All right.
Just
where are you going with this?
I'm looking. I don't know. Okay.
Debate?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes. Okay. So this is taking us back too far. Sorry. I was just looking at all the stuff we had here that's not even going to be interesting in a couple minutes. I mean, like in our next show. But I thought this was really funny that debate viewers believe that Tim Walz was weirder than JD Vance. The worst thing, though, for me was there was a clip, and we don't need to show the whole clip, of Harry Enton on either MSNBC or CNN talking about the working class are now, like, I think almost totally tied with Democrat.
Yeah, this one we should have talked about this. Yes, this is crazy,
right?
This is the effect of the most pro-union president failing unions. This is the bullshit of people seeing through Democrats that Clinton had a 30-point advantage in union households. His wife only went to 12. Biden got to 19, but way below Clinton. And Harris is at 9.
I mean, and the thing is, first of all, most people don't even, like normies, don't even remember or know that Biden crushed the railway strike. But also, there was another 2 strikes that he crushed. And now I can't remember either one of them because of all the shots and everything. But there's been like 3 that he has shut down. So that's not helpful.
There's a consequence to failing the left, which is what's happening now, which is the only reason this is a toss-up. Right now, this should be a Democrat with Trump being a crazy motherfucker. Should be the easiest cakewalk in the world. We saw 4 years of him. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants it. I don't want it. But I don't want people to sleep and think Democrats are going to protect them on these things, because the climate matters. It's immediate. COVID matters. It's immediate. Healthcare matters. Rent is ridiculous. Yeah. People can't afford food. The homeless problem is off the charts. Everything. There are no heroes on the left, and people think there are heroes on the left.
Right.
And they need to be disavowed of that theory.
And part of the problem is because they feel more normal and nice, and they give lip service to these problems. But fucking JD Vance just did all of that. So now it's like, okay, you're sort of indistinguishable because the policies aren't there. James Zogby wrote an article about how in 30 years of polling Arab American voters, we've never witnessed anything like the role that the war on Gaza is having on voter behavior. And even CIA stooge Slotkin says, I'm not feeling my best right now about where we are on Kamala Harris in a place like Michigan. We have her underwater in our polling. And listen, I mean, they might pull it out by winning whatever, another, Arizona. I don't even know. But like, as you said, it should not be this close. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting that it's this close.
It's going to be a coin toss to the end, but we know if they change their position on this, it would be a landslide on the left. I mean, not the left. The Democrats would win if they just change their positions. What's happening is the same thing we called out immediately. Kamala, with her vague position, had some people thinking she was sort of left, at least on Gaza and on other stuff. And then the more she defined her policy, it's to the right of Biden, which you're losing people on the left to gain a couple people on the right, but the balance, it's not balanced. And where it's going to show up most is voter enthusiasm, which is actually going out and getting off your butt and doing something to cast a vote for this party that's fucked you over so many times. And also it factors in is the war. It's not just Palestine. We're watching Kamala / Biden expand this thing that we don't like.
Right.
And that's not going to show up in polls day to day when we're just watching on the news day to day.
Right.
Expand this. It's going to show up in the voting booth when you're going to watch the last fucking beheaded kid that you fucking paid for with your taxes.
Well, you can't feed your family.
Fucking vote for this.
Yeah. Yeah. While you can't feed your family, or while there are chemical explosions happening. And I mean, this is the craziest emergency alert in Georgia, where that chemical explosion happened, the biolab incident, which, by the way, was a company that, of course, was a private equity, had like sold parts of it off and taken all that money instead of reinvesting it and, you know, adhering to regulations. They paid off all their investors. So, you know, again, it's just a disgusting problem of capitalism and trying to make the most money that you can. So here comes this horrific biolab incident. I mean, like, I cannot even imagine seeing this explosion. Right? Chemical fires erupted at a biolab facility, displacing 17,000 residents. Chlorine gas, poisonous in large amounts, was released with smoke and haze observed across the metro Atlanta area through other counties. Nobody's being told, by the way, to wear a gas mask. N95s will not do it for this, but nobody has N95s anyway, because we don't mask, because it's the scarlet letter. And why the hell would you ever want a mask to protect yourself or protect anybody else? But here they put out this emergency alert. Apparently it's only dangerous, and they want you to stay home from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning. But those work hours between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., hunky dory, go to work, and you can go out of your house between 7 at night and 7 in the morning. Close your windows, turn off your air conditioning. I don't even know what temperature it is there. Close your doors. People can, of course, still smell it in their homes. It's affecting the air, the water, the soil.
But how overt is capitalism in this emergency notification right here? Go to work and then watch, close your windows, protect yourself. You know, it's like the eating in restaurants thing with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get the COVID, but it's the same thing. It's like,
yeah,
you know, most of the time you should avoid COVID, except when you're going to spend some money towards capitalism.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Keep the system alive.
Yeah. Gavin does it. Everybody's doing it.
I don't even have stuff on Gavin this week because it didn't really fit what we're getting into, but like,
he vetoed 2 bills. He's a fucking asshole. Sorry, go ahead.
He's approved all sorts of right-wing stuff and vetoed left-wing stuff, you know, reparations for Black people regarding
healthcare. Yeah.
He's just a shitbag. He's a total shitbag, and he's already running for 2028, I guess. You know, that's the move with his bullshit, but he's a garbage Republican.
He's a garbage Republican. Yeah, and we know, because again, and it's so sad, Zainab, it's horrible, but we know why it keeps happening in Appalachia or in other areas that are poor across the country, like Flint. And just again, as a reminder, because now that I've had so much to drink, I don't want to forget to say that Jordan's coming on, Jordan Cheriton, on Sunday to talk about his new book, We the Poisoned, about Flint, Michigan. But yeah, it's why all of these issues, as we know, are capitalism, and they are intersectional, and they're always going to affect poor communities first. And rich people think that they're going to get away with something. But, again, it's like a smoking section on a plane. It's going to affect them also. But anyway, okay, yeah, sorry, moving on,
I guess. But it does bring me back to listening to the experts, which is, I guess, my moral message tonight. But listen to the real experts, not these health experts. Like, do some research yourself into what is the danger and spread it to people you know, because our government's not doing it at all.
Yeah.
And you're going to look like the kooky one. But, when you have a gas leak like this, it's a little more obvious and impactful to people there. And maybe that's another moment. Obviously their safety is the most important, but it's a teachable moment to be like, this is capitalism you're seeing here. This is the problem with our system. This is what they want you to work. That's all they care about.
Yep. They want you to work. They don't want regulations because we need to make more money. More money, more money, more money. Okay.
The deregulation thing, though, is the sort of most obvious shift on the left. Is the left is pushing under the guise of helping the middle class, this deregulation. They've made that connection now, which didn't exist before, but now they're saying, oh, take away the constraints to building so we get more houses. And they're like, that's the push that is impacting people. And we can't allow that to be a part of the Democrats' message. We should call that out, because
we absolutely should, because the deregulation is going to harm people. And the other fix would be, we're putting a ban on businesses owning single family units. Businesses aren't allowed to own more than a certain number of rental properties or something. So, like, regulate. That's what a government's there for. Help the people. We have plenty of housing, actually.
All right. So are we on to COVID?
COVID, yeah. And we didn't do the numbers, but it still is over 1,300. I can find it quickly, but I think probably everybody knows. What's this? I don't even know what this is. The COVID propaganda. Oh, are we both pushing the button? Oh,
I didn't touch it. No.
Okay. Oh my God.
A little bit of COVID will help you with the flu.
That's
they're like,
excellent.
Could it? So that when the article is could it, it's no, it couldn't.
I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking a question. Yeah.
Could COVID cure cancer? Could you get COVID several times, cure cancer?
Could COVID make you skinny?
COVID can make your dick limp.
It actually, yep, it can.
Science.
That is science, and that's the truth.
I have not had COVID. Just putting it out there, ladies.
All right, ladies. We have a Novid over here.
Just kidding.
This week in key COVID publications, young, healthy individuals with mild cases had objective cognitive deficits at 1 year that they did not perceive. Older hospitalized adults with severe COVID had an equivalent of 20 years of decline in cognitive performance at 1 year follow-up. Nasal vaccine, this is the good news, blocked infections for at least 3 months and was effective across 10 different variants. Where is that flippin'? I keep hearing about it. Like, let's go. Let's fund this and not genocide. Reinfections, of course, are cumulative, increase the risk of long COVID. And I mean, here is where the anti-vaxxers, like mRNA shots don't induce long-lived plasma cells, but we don't know if this is true with other vaccine platforms.
So what that's saying,
glad
that's
we get
basically
to discuss it now.
Just to clarify the last part about mRNA, the effects aren't as lasting. That's a bad thing. You want longer lasting effects from the vaccine, so it's a short-lived effect, a short-lived boost from the mRNA, where our government should be out there screaming to people, look, we got one that's better than this. And all you crazy wackos that think the mRNA is
but who's going to believe
Bill
them
Gates
now?
investing chips in you.
Yeah.
At least take the regular old vaccine. It's just the regular old vaccine.
Yeah.
Sugar-based.
But they're not even talking about it. They're not talking about Novavax. They're not also giving people the correct instructions that you have to apparently boost Novavax just the way you did with mRNA 8 weeks later. Nowhere. You have to bring in the printout, which I did from the FDA saying that you have to do it. You have to be immunocompromised, which you can just tell people you are, which, by the way, most of us are. If you have back problems, if you have migraines, if you're over 65, if you've had COVID before, there are a million things but you don't need to reveal what your specific issue is. But that's not even out there. Nobody's even talking about it.
They aren't. And I just want to point out that we focus on America, mostly because we're Californians here, whatever. But this problem and capitalism is worldwide. And that's what I appreciate SCP Party worldwide, them for pushing. But Canada, for example, you can't get Novavax in Canada. And they said the reason is that the demand was low. Well, demand is low because you're fucking silent on it, just like we are here. And the public awareness is garbage. So it's the government's fault.
100%.
They should be steering people towards the best solution to keep people safe.
But if they talk about it,
I mean, this is obvious, but
I know it's incredibly frustrating. There was this, whatever, it doesn't even matter. The study on clean air that I mean, it does matter. It's actually huge, but so this happened in California. God, Xander was probably in 4th grade. And I remember there was a group of kids who were having to come from the like elite, it says here, I think, but
they've known forever.
Yeah, Aliso Canyon or something. There was a chemical spill, and so kids were farmed out to other, had to be bused to other school districts because everybody had to evacuate. They say that the air was fine in the end, lol. But in the meantime, because of this Aliso Canyon spill, they started installing air filters in classrooms in that district. And what they found was the test scores went up as much as by cutting class size by a third, just having clean filtered air. This was before COVID. They cleaned the air in the classrooms, and those test results went up from this is January 2020, so before COVID. They were trying to reduce fumes from a gas leak, and they unintentionally improved math and English scores.
Yeah. So we're falling behind in education in the U.S., right? We know that's a factor. And class size is a big part of it. You have too many people in a class, you don't get the attention. But if you can't change class size, this is equivalent to that, because people are more, not only are the sickness, that's one level that's probably factored into this, that the kids are less sick, so they show up more and are whatever. Right. But when CO2 levels are high, it makes you sleepy, right? So you show up to these classes and you're not attentive.
Attentive. Yeah.
Did I get that right? Somebody
I don't know.
Fact check me.
Yeah.
Send me a DM.
Yeah.
But it's $1,000. I mean, you tell me you can't get PTA moms to, if you educated them, like we can't afford it as a government, but you want your personal kid to fucking do better in school. We just need to raise $1,000 here.
Yeah. And I mean, so I was a room mom every year of my kids' grade school. And it was always like that. The whole thing is raising money because the public schools never have enough money. And now they're actually, look at that, coming in with a joke right there. Right there.
I need a double filter.
But now they're getting rid of them because, those HEPA, whatever, air filters are expensive-ish. They're not that expensive. They're not as expensive as having to go to a hospital or be sick out for a week. And then you have childcare because you can't go to work, or having a disability for your whole life. But now they're actually taking them out of some of the public schools where they had put them in.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring this all the way back to Kamala Harris a little bit, because she wanted to criminalize people. She wanted to arrest parents of truant kids. And we're at the point where parents right now, if their kids do the responsible thing with COVID and take them out of school for, let's say, 10 days, which is double. Well, no, now you're supposed to go with COVID to school the next day, as long as you're not, openly coughing and whatever, and your temperature's down.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to prevent the spread of COVID, you probably should have your kid out for 10 days, but people can't afford to do that. I understand that. That's another level. But these parents are getting notifications that your kid is.
Oh, they're getting visits from CPS.
Yes, for doing these listen to science thing of keeping your kid from spreading a fucking level 3 biohazard.
Xander was out for 2 weeks when he got COVID last year. The first 2 weeks of his senior year, because we kept testing. He was starting to feel better, but we just kept testing, and he kept testing positive. And if you're positive, you can still spread it. Okay. Anything else about COVID? I will say, because as one of the many layers of the Swiss cheese model, we always mask indoors, always. In public, not in our house when we're fine, but we were using a betadine, which is a coragine. I don't know. It was, from the Lancet and the Clean Air, I think it's the Clean Air Club or something on Twitter that I was following. I will get the exact links. I don't want to, they're great. But that betadine, which was like $20 on Amazon, I know Amazon, whatever, but like $20 on Amazon, before you are in a vulnerable situation or after, you're supposed to do 2 sprays in each nostril 3 times a day. So if I ever, like when we would fly, we would do it. We always wore masks, but we would do it before we got on the plane. We would do it after that was an 80% reduction rate of infection. This is even better, Covixel, and it's a different active ingredient in there, which I'm not a scientist. I don't know. It's ethyl lauryl or whatever they call it, but it's Covixel.
And you don't need a prescription. It's over the counter stuff. You can order,
you can buy it online. Yeah.
Guess who's got some coming?
90%.
So they are backed up. I think I get mine in like 4 days.
And it's not a substitute. It's not like, oh, go to a concert without a mask, but it's just like a little added layer. $20, right? It's like $20 for a month's supply, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that. And I'm going to keep following this. So I'm going to start taking it, honestly, when I'm in certain conditions. But the thing I would suggest everyone do is not just sleep on it like, oh, it's a thing that works, because it could be long exposure to that does some damage to your body. So if you take some of these things, keep reading up on it. Yeah. Because it's one of those things it's like with, I'm a fitness guy usually. I'm a fat bastard lately, but I'll get back in there. But when people have these quick fix things for fitness, it kind of reminds me of COVID. So you got to watch out for them, because there's no long-term study on what this new medical thing that helps you grow muscle or something, So I've never taken any of that stuff, because long-term you got to be careful. So I'm just putting that little asterisk in here. Studies show that this thing is helping a lot with COVID. So right now I would recommend it.
Yeah. Again, as an added layer, the best thing you can do is wear a good mask, a respirator. But yes, 100% good to have those extra layers. All right. We didn't talk about this, and I know it's late and we're about to do our one good thing. And when I first saw the speech from the international, the Longshoremen Association, the head of that, whose name I wrote down, and now I need to look for it because I can't find it. What? Okay. Where did it go, Pat? Did you take it away?
I didn't delete any of your things, I don't think.
Harold J. somebody. Anyway.
Incorrectly somewhere.
I know me. It was a great speech, and it's so like,
I got it.
But this isn't our one good thing, because I just need to, but I'm calling it out because as excited as I am that these 45,000 workers are going on strike, the dock workers, it's amazing. And the head of the union is talking, and he talks the way you want somebody to talk, where it's like, they forced us back to work during COVID. We went there, we got sick. Many of us died. We weren't protected. We did that. We kept the economy up. They're going to say to you, and now
it's so great.
It's so great.
Everything except.
Yeah, they made billions off of us. We're coming for their paychecks now. They cannot treat us this way. They're going to try to frame it like, oh, now you don't have your food. You don't have your presents for Christmas and the holidays. It's not our fault. It's the billionaires' fault. But they are making it an exception for continuing to deal with weapons. So going to Israel. So it kind of takes away.
We'll put that asterisk at the end of it, but otherwise it's phenomenal. And if we can just get them to take away that exception, this would be great.
Yeah.
But today's world, it's changing into the future. They're not making millions no more. They're making billions. and they're spending it fast as they make it. I want a piece of that for my men, because when they made their most money was during COVID. When my men had to go to work on those piers every single day, when everybody stayed home and went to work. Not my men. They died out there with the virus. We all got sick with the virus. We kept them going. From Canada to Maine to Texas, Great Lakes, Puerto Rico, now the Bahamas, everybody went to work during COVID. Nobody stayed home. Well, I want to be compensated for that. I'm not asking for the world. They know what I want. They know what I want. And if they don't, well, then I have to go into the street and we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's gonna happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
I loved it. So excited until I saw the exception they're going to make for military cargo. Oh, and also passenger cruise ships. Yay, capitalism.
It's something, but this is where we need the solidarity with Palestine to be in the mix here. Like, don't your workers don't support the war.
Yeah, and also, by the way, so that's part of the contract is that's the exemption. Yeah. But I would assume that it's also part of the contract that you don't have to support a genocide that's against international Geneva Convention, right? So like there's got to be some out on that. And yes, Audra, I see don't conflate union bosses or bureaucrats with the rank and file, and I 100% agree. Amen. But when one of the leaders is speaking and speaks so well, like you want him to do that. And I saw him being interviewed by some idiot journalist who was like, you're going to shut down the economy. It's like, no, we're not. Like he handled it so well. Like, because of course they always frame it. The workers are shutting down the economy. No, the owners are shutting down the economy.
Yeah. You're shutting down the workers. And if the economy needs the workers, that's you.
Yeah.
That's you.
Anyway, so that was going to be our one good thing, but instead, and it's it's a smaller moment, but with a really big impact. And I just want to read it. It's Palestine Action. Because according to a senior Teledyne manager, which is a weapons manufacturer, contamination of their clean rooms could stop production for up to 12 months. So we're going to go out, but we want to also just say goodbye before we do. Go ahead, Pat. Right. Are you going to say something?
I just want to say this is not something we condone. Wink, wink, double wink. Whatever. Yeah. This is a terrorist action allegedly, but no, these are people breaking into bomb manufacturers and trying to disrupt their clean room.
Bless.
And it's action.
We'll see you all on Sunday. We have Jordan Sheridan. Thank you for being here tonight. Keep punching up, everybody.
Cheers.
So this, we understand this to be the roof that gives us access to the clean room, which we believe might be the room where they make parts for the F-35 clean, F-35 fighter jets. So we believe that if we can contaminate this room, that we can put this factory out of action for up to 12 months and intervene in them slaughtering Palestinian, Lebanese and Syrian civilians. And so that is why we're here today. Oh shit. No Ford? No Ford? Clean room 2.